tonight we've kind of talked about how to argue with a liberal. Of course, it's easy to just argue with a liberal, but we want to make sure that when we argue with them, we kind of let them know why they're wrong. And of course, you know, we've tried that until we're blue in the face. We want you to be convincing. We want you to have all the evidence. And there are a couple different websites and books that have been out recently that teach you how to argue with a liberal and how to present your case and make it convincing and hopefully convince them and win them to our side. Which, of course, that'll be very important this year because we need as many of them as we can get because they are seriously lost. Our first month's argument will be presented by Joe Ellen and Marilyn. So if I can get them to come up at this time and tell us a little bit about how to argue with a liberal.
Good evening, everybody. Joe Ellen and I have both chosen different topics. So I don't.
We were told to.
Yes, we were informed to that. So I don't think we'll be speaking together. The next time, perhaps, what we'll do, one of us will take a liberal point of view, and the other will take the conservative point of view. That might be more beneficial. Let us know what you would prefer, and we'll be more than happy to do it. Okay? I'm going to just talk about a subject where liberals will say to you, tell me, just what liberties have you lost? And how we can, as Tea Party members, respond to that comment. First of all, we should point out that in the U.S. and other countries, the political agenda of government have caused a reduction in people's freedom. Is that better? Okay, sorry about that. The loss of our liberties is in direct proportion to government regulations levied on our productive, creative, and personal efforts. The more political controls, the less freedom we have. This erosion of freedom has been taking place for years, a little bit at a time. So little that people don't even notice it. Also, most of these government mandates only affect a small portion of the population at a time. Therefore, freedom is being eroded to a single small group a little bit at a time. And you know what, guys? It's so small that if it doesn't affect us, we don't notice it. That doesn't mean it's not happening, because it is. And what I'd like to do is give you some examples of where our freedoms have been eroded. I'm sure that a lot of you know this. I just want to try to refresh your memory. And I only took a few examples because we have time limits. The first is the agricultural industry. You know, if we think of farming, we think of the farming business, it's really natural that we think of subsidies. We've had subsidies passed in 1922, the Grains Future Act. 1929, the Agricultural Market Act. And again, in 1933, the Agricultural Adjustment Act. How does that affect our freedom? How does it affect the freedom of the farmer? Well, for us, the average person, it affects us several ways. First of all, it transfers our income, the income taxes that we pay, to the federal government, and it gives them to the farmers. Second of all, it increases the cost of our products. Third of all, it limits the products a family can buy according to their income. And fourth, it reduces the value of our paycheck because of inflation. How does this affect the farmer? It affects the farmer because he can't plant what he wants, on the property he wants, and when he wants. These subsidies regulate the growth of wheat, cotton, peanuts, corn, rice, and tobacco. How else does this affect the farmer? Well, let's say a farmer is also raising animals. He's not only raises crops, but he raises cattle and he raises poultry. Well, he cannot, according to the law, grow his own grain. He must buy it. Now, how does that affect him? I know we have businessmen and women here. You think of it. Oops, the cost of my goods go up. Once the cost of your goods go up, your profit goes down unless you raise the prices accordingly. So what happens to the farmer? The farmer has to raise, his cost of product goes up, he has to raise the product when he's selling it. As a result, it affects our pocketbook. Okay? Okay, now let's look at another, let's look at another example. Small business. We all have heard about the minimum wage, and it does affect the small business more than it affects a larger business. The reason it affects a small business more than a larger business is because a smaller business works with less capital, and they're more dependent on their workers. Small business can't afford to pay their workers more than they really deserve. But sometimes, because of this federal law, you have to pay a person more than their service is worth. What happens to the small businessman? Well, nothing too good. First of all, if he keeps all the people he has, the cost of his product goes up, his profits go down, and he can go out of business. Second of all, if he lets people go because he can't afford to keep them, his service goes down. This can also affect his business. And third, and not least, is many times small businesses can't afford to keep on the number of people required to have their business function because of this cost. As a result, we see that many small shops in small towns go out of business. All we have to do is take a walk down to some of the small towns in the area, and how many empty signs, how many empty shops do we see with signs on for rent? That's a sign of how it affects small business. Another very important way the government is kind of controlling us and making us lose our freedom is by having closed shops. We have some states that are all closed, as we've heard a lot on Fox lately. All right, when a state has closed shops, that means that the employer can hire you, or you, or you, even if you don't belong to the union. But only with the condition that you either join the union or lose your job by the number of X number of days. If this in fact happens, this means there'll be more people unemployed than really want to be. This also increased the cost of goods because union people demand more pay, more holidays, more benefits than people without a union. What happens once the cost of products get increased, it reduces company profits, again, increases the sales price, again, reducing our dollar. Now, this effect, it has an effect on the workers. That's not really very good. What it does, the workers lose the freedom to join or not join a union. Millions of employees have not only lost their freedom to bargain individually with their employer, but have also lost the freedom to select their own bargaining unit. When you go to work for a company, they have one union there. Like it or not, you have to join it if you want to keep your job in a closed shop environment. What effect does this have on employers? Employers lose the freedom to hire or fire employees, reward or penalize employees according to their type of work. Now we have the most famous of all that everybody here knows, healthcare bill. Thank you, Mr. Obama, right? The government mandated healthcare bill determines a person's healthcare provider as well as the care they will receive. A physician's pay is dictated by the government, not by the quality of his care, not by the amount of time he gives to a person, and not by his specialty. This health care bill limits the care for patients over 70 years old. There are ethics panels that decide what type of care you warrant. Okay, let's look at physicians. How does this affect physicians? Well, physicians are encouraged to deal with quantity and not quality. Okay, there's a reduction in their compensation, which kind of discourages people from doing a top-notch job because it doesn't matter. I do a good job, I do a bad job, I get paid the same. There's a reduction in the number of specialists. A specialist receives no more pay or compensation than an ordinary GP. So, if I was a person going to med school, I'd say, why put in 3 or 4 more years? You know, it's expensive, it takes my time, I don't make money. It makes no difference in my salary. Okay, and physicians, this is, I think, one of the worst. Physicians are encouraged to call their patients units. Not people, nothing, unit. We have 4 units at that table, not 4 people, but 4 units. Remember that. To me, that's disgraceful. What effect does this have on the United States? I think everybody here would agree that the United States has one of the best health systems in the world.
Yes.
Okay? It's excellent. But once we go to his plan, we're going to become mediocre. That's serious. I mean, why do all presidents and leaders from all over the world come to the U.S. for medical care? If nothing else, for medical care. And we're going to lose that prestige, that brilliance, that knowledge. Okay, what effect does this have on the patient? Well, it takes away the freedom of an individual to choose his own medical provider. It takes away the freedom of an individual to select the physician he or she can afford. Takes away a person's human dignity by referring to a person as a unit instead of a patient. Just like we refer to things in manufacturing. How many units did you produce today? How many units did you recondition today? That's nice, huh? Older people who are seriously ill lose the right to receive the appropriate care needed. Their destiny is decided by ethics panels. Each hospital will have an ethics panel, and they will decide what care you should receive. Now, these are only a few examples of how our freedom has been and is continuing to erode. We must be careful that our government does not make our country a nanny country. It appears as if Mr. Obama wants to make us a nanny state by his policies of overprotectionism and economic intervention. In other words, he is fostering heavy regulations of an economic and social nature. This was evident by the top money he gave to the banks, right? By the extension of unemployment benefits, the takeover of the automotive industry, and providing a federal stimulus loan to companies like Solandra who don't deserve it. We have to be most careful about how we position ourselves in the country today. I'd like to leave you with some words to think about. We, as Americans, must remain united and speak up for our freedom, or be prepared to lose it. Thank you.